Hello, everybody. Welcome into MedStar, Capitals Iceplex, for a very special edition of Rink Report Trade Deadline Edition. That is Alan May, Tarek El-Bashir. I am Katie Florio, and guys, it's safe to say the Capitals have been quite active this week, but of course the breaking news this morning, I don't know if it was the morning for you guys or the nighttime last night, but John Carlson, no longer a Washington Capital. He has been traded to the Anaheim Ducks, obviously a blockbuster move that has impacted everybody who has been within the, whether you're in the organization, a fan, you wake up to news like that and it shocks you.
You know, I've been in this business for 20 years and I've talked to players and coaches about guys who have been shipped out, and this one felt a little different because he'd been here so long, and you could hear the emotion in the voice of everyone who talked today. Tom Wilson got a little teary. Spencer Carberry, I feel like his eyes moistened up a little bit. John Carlson meant a lot to this franchise and to this community. And, you know, seeing him in an Anaheim Ducks jersey is going to be really, really strange.
Now, and for you?
Well, for me, I just look at, this is a guy when I started broadcasting for, you know, the Capitals networks, the various networks. John Carlson started that very season. You could tell that he was a special player. I already knew him as a World Junior Hockey hero. But, you know, the biggest thing is that, once again, when you have a long-standing guy who's not just a long-time player, but he's the best of the best that you've ever had. He leads in every single category. He led this team to a Stanley Cup on defense. He broke records there for playoff performances. You see what he's done during the regular season. When I think of John Carlson, you think of the consummate professional, how he's grown into, you know, he was the leader of this franchise for so long. And every single player, every alum that's ever been here has looked up to him. My children are devastated, and they're in their 20s. They kind of grew up with John Carlson, as did this entire area, the hockey community. And so it's a devastating blow to come late last night. I had heard his name a while back, and I thought, well, you never know, and depends where this team is. I'm sad to see him go, but what an incredible run that he had here. And it's the saddest thing about sports. You cling to heroes, you love them. I'd say that people, instead of burning your jerseys, hang them on your wall. And this guy is so special. His name will be in the rafters here. He should be a Hockey Hall of Famer when it's all said and done, and I hope that he gets a Stanley Cup. If the Caps don't make the playoffs, I hope John Carlson wins a Stanley Cup.
17 seasons with the Capitals, and it's incredible to think now, after today, you look back at the 2018 Stanley Cup team, and all that's left of that is Tom Wilson and Alex Ovechkin. But of course, you two were here covering that. What did he mean for that run and that championship team?
He was one of the best players on the ice night in and night out, and he has been for so much of his career. You know, even in his later years, I mean, he's 36 years old. He's not the same player that he was when he was 26, but he's still impactful on a night-to-night basis. And the thing that really jumps out to me is just his hockey intellect, because when you start losing a little bit physically, I think about Alex Ovechkin and even Nicholas Backstrom. The best players are able to adapt their game. And the one thing that will always stand out to me about John Carlson is the fact that as he got older, he became a remarkably efficient player. Like, when he had to get on his horse, he always had enough energy. Sometimes it looked like, you know what, he could be going a little harder there. He knew exactly when he had to go 10/10 and when he could get away with 7/10, and that's the thing that I'll always remember about him.
Well, you know, the flash and dash guys don't stand the test of time. It's the steady guys. It's the quarter horses, and he's played so well in his career. I think it's confidence when you look at everything that he's done, and he just got better and better. What they are going to lose a lot more than just him on the ice. He was still the number one defenseman to me, but they're losing a coach, a player coach. What he was doing with the younger players, you hear how he was with the room. When I travel with the team, he is the guy that kind of brings them all together. It's him, it's Tom Wilson, it's Ovi, the trio of them, the best of friends. And it's sad that we've seen the last few years, we've lost Backy, we lose Oshie, now we lose John Carlson. It's tough, and soon we won't have an Ovechkin around, so these are hard days.
To your point, there's a reason why whenever the Capitals over the years brought in a new defenseman, whether he was in his young 20s or his mid-20s like Jacob Chikrin, why did the coach always put him to start the season with John Carlson? Because John knew the game. He was able to accurately and succinctly get things across to the player. You would see him on the bench going, "Hey, Jacob, let's do this next time. Spencer Carberry made a great point earlier today when we were talking about the impact that Karlsson had here. He said just what he meant to the younger players. He said during TV timeouts, you would see John go over to Hendrix Lapierre, a center wing, and start talking to him about how he could have done something differently on the breakout or in different parts of the game. So, yeah, they're losing a lot in terms of what he meant on the ice, but also the leadership off the ice.
Alan, to your point, you know the hockey business better than anyone else, and that is it. It is a business. And so, yes, this is part of it. Trades happen. But, Tarek, like you said, we saw today in the locker room, I mean, the guy's on the verge of tears, and I have not seen that before. And so, to your point of a leader, how do you now replace not just the defenseman that he was on the ice, but that voice in the locker room?
Well, it's just got to be natural. I don't think someone's going to change who their personalities are. They already are who they are. They're all devastated. They're probably, had a lot of talks about it today. And then when it's all said and done, we don't know if the trade deadline's really over yet. And when it's all said and done, they've got to have a meeting, and the guys have to carry on forward. They've got a big game tomorrow in Boston. They're going to probably have a team dinner where they're all together tonight, and they're going to have to talk about what they're doing going forward. And it's not like Tom Wilson's going to change his ways, or Alexander Ovechkin or Dylan Strome. Those guys, you look at Matt Roy, those players are all who they are as people. They're not going to be standing on a stump all of a sudden and trying to replicate what John could do. So it's just a matter, it's organic, it's natural, and you just got to continue being yourself. And you know what? The hockey players are dumb enough. The Caps are on the outside looking in right now. If you give them 1% of a chance, they think there's a chance and they can do things. And hopefully these guys realize they keep going for it and keep trying to get in the playoffs and keep battling away no matter who's on their blue line and no matter who's up front.
And to your point, someone's going to get an alternate captain's A tomorrow. It's been a long time, a very long time, since there's been a player not named John Karlsson wearing an A.
That's a tough one. When you look at it, it's going to be probably another defenseman that they're looking at. They're going to have some leadership from there, and just another voice, Katie.
Well, as the news broke in the wee hours of the morning, we heard from several Capitals players in the locker room earlier today and their raw reaction on their teammate and one of their leaders being traded.
Obviously, it's a sad day. Probably the toughest day in my career. I'm talking about personal wise, but it's sad.
Did you have a chance to talk to him before you left?
I called him this morning. I think he have to come here and take his gear, so I hope to see him.
When did you find out this morning when you woke up?
Yeah.
How surprised were you, Ovi?
Well, it was kind of not a surprise. It was a shocking situation. We were very close. It's hard. It's hard.
What are you going to miss most about just his presence in the locker room? And obviously, you guys have a long friendship relationship.
Everything. We've been together since his day one in Caps, and we're growing up together as a person, families. It's hard. It's hard and sad day.
It's not a great day, obviously. With what he has meant to this organization through 17 years. I don't think you don't replace a guy like that. It's tough. It's part of the business. He grew into one of my best friends, if not my best friend on the team, and obviously I think we're all going to miss him a lot. It's tough. You lose Dowder 2 days ago, and or I guess yesterday, and then you lose John today. It's just it's a hit to the locker room for sure. We've got a lot of good leaders in here and guys that have been around a long time and guys that know how to manage these situations. It's one of those things that we're definitely going to miss him and wish him all the best of luck in Anaheim. He's a great person, an unbelievable family man. His professionalism, the way he treats people around the rink, the way he, he's the type of person that when he speaks, guys listen. And those are hard to come by. So it's not an easy day for anyone, and it's tough. Definitely definitely going to miss.
Ovi comes in this morning, and he's our captain, and right from him all the way down to the young guys, everybody's kind of got a role, and everybody's got a different style of leadership, and it's on the whole group to understand that, like, today sucks. Like, it's brutal. I mean, I'm sure there's some guys that want to cry. I mean, like, that's the reality of it. I mean, today you can cry, and tomorrow you got to wake up and be a big boy and go out and play hockey, and we're professionals, and we got to do our job, and we're not going to roll over. Like, obviously the trade deadline's not over, but we believe in this group. I still look at our roster, and I think we're a better team than a lot of teams in the East. So, we're going to have some closure today, obviously, and say goodbye to Johnny's a guy that, like, anyone in your family can call him and he'll be there. Like, he truly is. Like, it's not always sunshine and rainbows, and he gives people a hard time in here sometimes, but I think everybody in here knows if you call him at 3 in the morning and you need something, like, he's a guy that's lining up to be that guy for every single person. So we see that in here, and that's what hurts. I mean, he's a guy that you just can't replace. I mean, you just don't. And that's a tough feeling, but like I said, we'll have some closure today, and then tomorrow we'll wake up and try and go to war for the rest of the year and play hard.
Well, no question that locker room is certainly rocked by the loss of John Carlson, but I specifically love that quote by Tom Wilson. You can cry today, but then tomorrow you have to wake up a big boy again and go play hockey, because that's exactly what this is. You're mourning the loss of a great teammate and friend, but at the same time, they're still right in the thick of this playoff race, trying to win games, and the next one comes. It's a huge matchup against Boston less than 24 hours from now.
It's a lot for these guys to process, right? I mean, they got this huge game tomorrow in Boston. They have an opportunity still to get into the playoffs. At the same time, when I was in that room today, you could feel it. I mean, it was palpable. They know that a page is turning here, that the baton is being passed, that the guys who won the Stanley Cup and have been pillars of this franchise for a long time. Look, we don't know what Alex Ovechkin is going to do. That said, it's starting to feel like this team is starting to change hands, and there's going to be some transition. And look, the Capitals have done a really good job in terms of what they're getting back in these trades, because they are reloading, because it's going to take draft capital to bring in new players via the draft, or to dangle those draft picks this summer to go out and get via trade, because it's not a great free agent market, to get via trade some younger, faster players that are going to step in and backfill for the guys who are moving out.
So, Alan, by this point, where would your mind be? You're not completely out of the playoff race, but at the same time, it's clear that this team is now pivoting to the future.
Well, the biggest thing is, if you're the players, you've got to believe every day. You've got to put the best skate forward and try to make the playoffs. You've got to play every game as though it's your last. John Carlson is gone, and that's the reality. And tomorrow, when they're in the dressing room, they're going to be lighthearted. They're going to be having fun. They're going to be serious. They're going to go out and give their all to play against the Boston Bruins. When I look at what they've done, and it's none of the players really worry, is now the Capitals are near the bottom of the league in salary cap with money available. You look at the asset management the last few days, they've acquired some really good draft picks. That's
22
important.
in the next 3 years.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah.
But when you look in the first 2 and 3 rounds, that's where it really matters.
Absolutely.
Because all the other stuff is hope and pray, and you're hoping that a player really comes around and improves. But at the same time, you've got to really do something with these drafts. So you can trade for first-round draft picks all day long, but you better draft pretty damn well.
and
if you trade, you've got to make sure that your first round, if you keep your first round, they better hit. And then if you're trading, you better get a lethal player that's going to come through for you when you need them. And this is still a team with a lot of good pieces, a lot of great pieces, and they're going to develop players along the way. So I look at right now, they've got to go out there tomorrow, and like I said, you've got to be dumb enough to believe that you can climb in there to those wild card spots, maybe even third, because there's a lot of things that happen throughout the National Hockey League season. You never know week to week where you're at.
And just a couple of years ago, they traded away Anthony Mantha and Joel Edmondson, and earlier than that, Evgeny Kuznetsov. And what happened? They still made the playoffs. Like, this isn't raising the white flag. This is going, we need to pivot. Here's an opportunity to go get some draft capital and get younger and set us up for the future. But at the same time, it has been done, and guys in that room have done it.
Well, John Carlson, certainly the news of the day and maybe the trade week for the Capitals. But let's not forget Nick Dowd, of course, made his departure. He was traded to Vegas Golden Knights yesterday as well. The Capitals getting a second-round pick in 2029 and a third-round pick in 2027 for him, as well as goaltender Jesper Vikman, who will report to the AHL. So that was one where we thought we saw that shock with Carlson today in the team. They were hurting for their teammate Dowd as well, because he is a guy, you know, he may be not the most flashy standout, but he's so gritty, good on the PK, the face-off dot. There were so many little components of his game that meant so much to this team.
Yeah, it really was a double whammy the last 48 hours, right? I mean, yesterday I was like, oh, this really feels terrible in this room. These guys are really hurting after losing Nick Dowd. And then you get there this morning and they're feeling even worse because, again, I mentioned this before, there are some conflicted feelings. Like, they know the playoffs are still right there and they've got to pull themselves together and refocus here in short order and try to get themselves into a playoff spot. That said, a couple of their brothers are gone now. And these are also players who meant a lot in that room in terms of leadership. When I think of the leaders on this team, I mean, Dowd was right up there with Carlson. He was a guy who said the right things, who didn't say a lot, but when he did speak, people listened.
And I'm big on guys like Nick Dowd because regardless of what you make, whether you're max or your minimum wage in the National Hockey League, if you earn your money every night, you're a valuable player to me. And he's a guy that earned his money every step of the way. He came to play every single night. Was he always great? No, nobody is. But I'll tell you what, the effort was always there, and that's the greatest thing to me, is you have a guy like that, a character player, and he can go around and lead in the dressing room because the players know that he gives his all at all times. And you know, it's sad to lose players like that, but that's where you have to start changing your teams, is in the third and fourth lines and bringing players up and advancing players into the system. You shouldn't just anoint them the next greatest right winger or #1 defenseman. You've got to make sure that players are ready to play. And unfortunately, Nick had a lot of value right now. He had a lot of value last year and the year before. Teams have been calling on him the entire time. An excellent right-handed face-off guy. Throughout the years, we used to be the Beagle line. Well, then it became the Dowd line. Every single year, it was the Dowd line. The left wingers have changed, the right wingers have changed, but it was always the Dowd line. Yeah. And that's one of the things. So Vegas is getting that in their team. They're getting a dependable guy that'll do whatever it takes. It is sad to see players go, but once again, I've been traded a lot, and you've got new brothers the next day. And you've got to worry about your own job, what you're doing for that team that you're playing for, whatever jersey it is. You've got to be your best.
I always thought it was funny that the Dowd line was always called the fourth line. It was always listed fourth. And then you look at the ice time at the end of the night, you were like, nah, they were really more like the third line. I mean, they were always going up and getting the hardest matchups. Whenever a draw needed to be won, even in overtime, but especially in clutch moments in the third period, D-zone, you have to win that draw. Who was out there? It was Nick Dowd.
And speaking of those tough assignments, Spencer Carberry spoke on just that and losing Dowd yesterday.
He's just such a valuable player in so many different ways, and I think the best way to appreciate Nick Dowd is just ask his teammates about him. That's the best way, because they will tell you exactly what it means. And when it's all said and done, I told him this maybe at the end of last year. The difficult assignments and deployment and the penalty kill and all the hard parts of the game that he takes such pride in, and I'm sure he's going to do a fantastic job for Vegas. And I said how it relates to O last season, right? Like, so O breaks the record, and I said, Dowder, when your career is over, you're going to be able to reflect, and probably no one will talk about it, but you deserve a lot of credit for O's record and what you did for him. And you might go like, why? You started 275 times in the defensive zone, so Alex Ovechkin could start in the offensive zone tenfold. And think of how many goals were scored because of that, because this team and this organization was able to deploy you in the defensive zone consistently and give you a tough Austin Matthews matchup or Jack Eichel matchup, and you not only flourished in that matchup and did such a good job, but you loved it and embraced it and didn't complain and didn't say one iota about not starting or getting an opportunity to start in the offensive zone. So I think, the Vegas players will learn to appreciate that.
Well, Nick Dowd and John Carlson, the storylines of the week for the Capitals. But breaking news as we've been sitting at this desk for the show, defenseman Timothy Liljegren has been acquired by the Capitals from San Jose. Guys, I don't believe we know the return on that yet, but what we do know about him is he's good friends, going to be reunited with his good buddy Rasmus Sandin.
Yeah, we are still waiting to hear what the return was. There's a backlog at Central Registry with the NHL as they are going through all these trades to make sure that people are, as they're making these deals, that the money works and everything can be approved. So might be a little while till we figure out what's going the other way. But yeah, Liljegren, like you mentioned, he has two connections to this franchise. He played with Rasmus Sandin in Toronto, and who was the assistant coach in Toronto back then? No, none other than Spencer Carberry. So he's well known. Look, he's a middle of your lineup defenseman. He's 26 years old, and he is an unrestricted free agent at year's end. So this is going to give the Capitals an opportunity to see what this right-handed shot defenseman is about. Can they make him fit into the group? If he's able to fit, then maybe he gets a contract and they resign him.
Alan, I feel like, if we were going to see someone acquired, it was always in that forward core. And so are you surprised right now to see
No,
a defenseman?
I think you have to do things that make sense for your organization, and rather than just getting any warm body that you can and making desperate trades that reek of desperation, you've got to make sure that you're making the right trades. They've got so much money available now. They've got time to cook for the rest of the off season until next season, regardless of how the season standings play out, whether they're in the playoffs or not. You've got time if you want to make real hockey trades. You've got assets, you've got trades, you've got prospects, and you've got to see what you have in the minors. As these young kids, Ilya Protas probably gets a look before the end of the season. Does Hudson come out of BU and step right in the lineup here? So you're going to experiment with what you have, but the biggest thing to me is just don't do things out of desperation. The pundits, they make every trade, they throw stuff at the wall, and we've seen so many things that haven't happened, thankfully. And, every rumor that's out there, and the majority of them, nothing even came close to what everyone is talking about. And it hasn't been a crazy, crazy day other than getting the John Carlson news at 1 a.m. in the morning.
Let's touch on a name you just mentioned, because it's not a trade, but it is a body that is going to be coming here soon, and one that we think will certainly make an impact quickly, and that is Cole Hudson. We assume he will be making the jump straight from BU to the Capitals. If that's the case, it'll be a similar situation to what we saw in Ryan Leonard last season. But Tarek, we'll start with you first.
Okay.
What are you expecting out of him on that blue line here?
Well, look, when you bring a player out of NCAA to the NHL, look, he's never going to see Hershey. He's going to come right to Washington. That's usually part of the deal. When a player is drafted, they say, listen, I will leave university and come to your team, but I need to come right to the NHL. And if you are going to burn the first year of his entire entry-level contract just for the final few weeks of the season, you're also going to put him in the lineup. So Cole Hudson is going to come to Washington and is going to be given a spot right away. Now, I would say word of caution is, remember all the hype that was around Ryan Leonard last year. The jump from NCAA Division I to the NHL is enormous. It cannot be overstated how big a step that is. And so to expect him to come in and start doing the toe drags and the dangles and scoring the goals, that's not going to happen. He's going to come in, he's going to have a very steep learning curve, but we saw with his brother Lane that he's got the skills. I mean, everyone I talk to says he's as good, if not better in some ways, than Lane. Lane is the reigning Rookie of the Year in the NHL, so fans should be really excited.
They should be excited, but don't put too much on his back. Just like you said with Ryan Leonard, we heard that he was the best forward outside of the NHL last year, and he got here and he struggled. There's a huge learning curve. You've got the biggest bodies, the best skaters, regardless of what fans think in any market. These are all deserving NHL players in every market. So he's going to have to come here. He's going to have to adapt to the system. We're a lot different than the Montreal Canadiens where his brother plays. So when I look at where he's going to be, just let him come in and play the game and see where he stands, because they forced Rasmus Sandin in Toronto. They thought he was going to be a 70, 80-point guy. He's a really good-looking defenseman, the way he plays the game, an excellent skater, and Cole Hudson needs time to develop, and they shouldn't have too great of expectations. We want him to exceed everything, but I think just be prepared to just see a hockey player that's learning his way.
And another point here is, when you talk about the two players who've been shipped out of here, John Carlson and Nick Dowd, part of the reason for those trades were the team knows they need to get younger and faster. They are now opening spots, not just cap space, which they have plenty of, as Alan just said, but they have to open space for their young players to come in. Why did Dowd get traded? Mostly because Justin Sourdif emerged as a player who can do that role. He's younger, he's faster. Why did John Carlson get moved? Because they were interested in getting younger and faster. I mean, Cole Hudson is not going to be John Carlson right away, but he's going to be very good. And you're over the years, you're acquiring all these draft picks. You're going out and you're drafting these players. At some point, you have to make room for those young players to come in and make their mark, and that's what's happening right now.
It's one thing to have veteran leadership to help kind of guide you into this league, but we all know Ryan Leonard will be the first to say, yeah, this was a jump. It did kind of humble me a little bit. So do you think it will also help, Cole, where not only do you have some of those vets helping you, but you do have a guy who's young like you, and he's going through, just went through a year earlier, what he is about to go through now?
I mean, given the fact that one's from BC and one's from BU, I don't know. I hope they get along. All joking aside, they were teammates on Team USA since they were, 16 years old. So they're very familiar with one another. Yeah, they're going to be good. Maybe they'll end up being roommates. Who knows?
Well, I love the national development team program and what the players, the skill level they have. We were highlighted by Team USA at the Olympics, how incredible their skill levels are, all excellent skaters, the puck handling's elite. And once again, it's just a matter of, regardless of who's on this team, you still got to go out there, be confident, hopefully have a great first game, and your team, everything goes right for you. We've seen players in the past come in the league and get a hat trick in the last game of the season. I look at Ryan Poehling with the Montreal Canadiens out of St. Cloud, gets a hat trick, season's over, and then he comes back and he struggled. He just got a huge contract yesterday, but it took him years. It took him years to get back to form, what they thought he was going to be, and now he's got a really nice contract. So expecting too much too soon, I think it's fair to let him get here, improve, see where he stands, and see if he needs to be in Hershey or if he's going to be a Washington Capital like in the immediate future.
Well, the Capitals certainly have a lot of assets right now, 22 picks, I believe, in the next 3 drafts. So when you two break down those picks, plenty coming in the first round as well. What do you think the Capitals need to do for here? What do they need to target? And like you said earlier, Alan, they need to draft smart.
Well, they do. And, the biggest thing with the draft is hopefully when, if you're in a lottery area, they're not going to be in that area more than likely. But when you need some luck. You want to be as close to the top as you can because it's harder to make those mistakes. But at the same time, these guys are scouring all over the world. They've got players, as we speak, in, the different hockey continents. And it's just a matter, you never know. You always have to take the best players available, hopefully the players that don't need 3 and 4 years of seasoning. You'd like the guys that are ready to play sooner than later. And if you're not, it typically takes 3 to 4 years in the American Hockey League to get ready to play in the National League. So, every team, you look at the draft this year, who's going to be of the top 3 guys, every guy's great. Stenberg, McKenna, Keaton Verhoff, the big defenseman. Those guys are all excellent, but I don't think it's going to go by the needs of the team. It's going to be who wows you as we get down the stretch here the most, and who do you think can eventually, over the course of 5 to 10 years, who's going to be a dominant player for your team. And, you never know what's going to happen. There's so many things that happen with injuries, but I still think you don't go in the draft and say, we're going to draft a goalie in the first round. We're going to draft a center. You've just got to see the best players available and hope that they fall in your lap.
So I just checked in. It is now 3:28, 28 minutes since the deadline passed. They are still awaiting a trade call with the NHL and all the involved parties on Liljegren.
Okay.
I'm also told there's another depth move that is behind that. So there will be some more action for the Capitals here over the next little bit. And, Alan, before we came up, we were talking about sometimes you're waiting around until 4:30, 5 o'clock before you find out all the moves.
Guys. What else do we have to do?
Yeah, because it takes a little bit of time. Okay, now, it's being reported that Kampf is coming to
David
Washington.
Kampf,
David Kampf.
Okay.
He is a 4th line left wing, I believe.
Yep.
So it sounds like that is the other depth move. We're still waiting on official word. Might be a little bit.
Might be. Thank you all for sticking with us as we continue our live trade deadline coverage. Obviously, a lot still coming our way as we continue to refresh Twitter and wait. But now, guys, I want to jump to some of the top prospects because I think this week, and John Carlson and the Nick Nowd move in particular, shows that this team is getting younger, and they're getting younger quickly. This is something we knew was coming. Yes, you have to say goodbye to some players who were part of an era here, but at the same time, that opens the door for a lot of excitement. I mean, the way Ilya Protas has played in just his first year pro, Andrew Crystal is not far behind him. Of course, we've talked about Cole Hudson as well. Tark, you and I go down to Hershey, it feels like almost every other month by this point, and I enjoy those trips so much because we say it all the time. I know the future is bright can be such a cliche saying, but it is so true, and the young talent and just the energy and life that can come with that is coming to Washington soon, and there's a lot to be excited about with that.
I thought you were going to say your favorite part about going to Hershey is lunch with all of us at
That
either the
too.
Bears Den
Haven't even gotten
or
chocolate there
Permanente
yet,
Brothers
though.
or one of those places. Look, that list we were just showing there, I mean, Cole Hudson going to be a top-tier player eventually. Might take a little bit of time, but he's going to be. Ilya Protas and Andrew Crystal are incredibly young players. I mean, Protas is still a teenager, 19 years old. They are 1-2 on the Hershey Bears. That's a grown man league. That is sometimes a hard league to really show your skill when you're a skill type player. They are down there, I wouldn't say dominating, but more than holding their own at their age. That bodes really well for how quickly they're going to be able to transfer what they're doing down there to this level.
Alan, I certainly know my answer for this. Curious of yours. When you look at Hershey's roster right now and the prospects, who would you pick to be maybe the first one? Who is deserving of that first shot, that first call up to the Capitals right now?
You want to put players in positions to succeed, so it depends where they are. Of course, I'm big on size, and Ilya Protas has torn it up in every league that he's played in. He tore the Ontario Hockey League apart last year, and he's been better than his brother at the different levels when you talk about who these guys are as far as numbers are concerned. And then what he's doing in the American Hockey League as a rookie this year, and it's hard. As a rookie, it's a very young hockey team, and I look at him and the things that he's doing. He would be a guy we're dying to see get an opportunity up here, but you want to put him in a position to succeed. Mironishenko, who's been hurt, injured a few times, and he's kind of beat the odds over the course of where he was drafted, everything he's dealt with,
cancer,
and he's got to continue to improve as a player. And then you look in defense. Ryan Chesley's a name that you say, will he get a shot? Is he going to fill in on that third right pair at some time? I think it's better, like if depending where you are in the battle, in the fight for the playoffs, when you give a player an opportunity, you don't want to put him in a position that he's overwhelmed,
right?
And you want him to be comfortable and not the end of the world where the coach has to sit him, in the last half of the game. So it's just opportunity. And you look at, you need to be healthy. Linda Lakovic had shoulder surgery. So there's all types of things that go on. So these young players, they need to be healthy, and so they can start to develop and improve and get ready for the big league.
So I think Ilya Protas is going to be the first player to come from Hershey. I think it's going to happen here in the next month or so.
That was my next question. Do they get a shot this season? And last one, guys, before we wrap things up, talking so much about the young talent, but Alex Ovechkin is still on this team. And earlier today, he called it what was the saddest day in his career, saying goodbye to John Carlson. Obviously, that shook him up a little bit. And of course, he was asked after that, all right, does this impact your decision at all? And he still gave us nothing. I still think that we're going to continue to get nothing. But what are your thoughts after a day like today?
He actually made a little bit of a joke there. He said, well, I'm still here. And I was like, wait a minute, is he getting traded? No, he's not getting traded. Of course, he did not get traded. Look, I think Alex is going to have some soul searching and some hard conversations to have with management, with his family, maybe even with teammates. He's 40 years old. He's in the last year of his contract. He's still a very productive player. He's still one of the best players, one of the most productive players on the Capitals. That said, this team is clearly starting to pivot in a different direction. He's going to have to figure out here over the next month and a half what he wants to do.
Alan, if you're in his shoes, where do you think?
Well, you know what? No one can think like the GOATs, like a Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, Alexander Ovechkin. I think just enjoy every game that we have with them the rest of the way. All the mates that he grew up with are gone right now, and it's got to be extremely sad, extremely tough for him. Like I said, he's old enough to be the father of a lot of the players on this team, and I think we just have to enjoy our time. And hopefully he gets really, really hot here as we go down this stretch. It really adds to the speculation for next year.
He's earned the right to call his own shot.
Absolutely.
What he has meant to this city, to this franchise, to the NHL, he will tell the Capitals what he wants to do, and they'll go, okay, Alex, we'll figure it out.
Very well said. Well, thank you two so much for your insight. That was a lot of fun, and clearly still plenty of news to come from the Capitals this evening, so make sure you're keeping up with all of the social medias. But once again, for Alan May and Tarek El-Bashir, I'm Katie Florio saying so long.